Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to the Lenko Show with the Lenko Bros. We have a very special episode today. It's special because I'm the host, and I'm the host today because the episode is Why Do People Hate Greatness? And me and Alex decided as a team, collectively, we went through all of our life accomplishments. We decided that I am great, far greater than he, and therefore I will host this particular episode, 107, Why Do People Hate Greatness? And as it were, I can see that Alex hates me right now. So there you go. That's it. That's it. How are you doing, Alex? You agree
I'm
with
all right.
everything I said?
I'm really good. I don't hate you at all. I don't actually have much hatred for anybody.
I
Like,
I really thought you were going to say I don't really have much feeling towards you either way, to be honest.
well, yeah. I mean, that's I suppose that's true in a sense as well. I mean, there's times where you boil my piss and really wind me up, but such is life. You're my brother. That's
Just to
what
be
happens,
clear,
isn't it?
I only boiled his piss because I was a child. It was a long time ago. I don't do that anymore. We
It's.
don't do
I mean, I probably shouldn't have peed in the kettle in hindsight, but
that. Okay, so this episode has been spurred on. Me and Alex had a good deliberatorial. I've made that word up. We're running with it. A good discussion just before we started. We had some really insightful things to talk to you guys about in terms of how to improve your athletic performance or how to quickly win £100 million. But we decided today that we were going to go with why do people hate greatness because of something that Alex clued me in on earlier. That's terrible English. I apologize, everyone. Basically, talking about Novak Djokovic. So I'm
well,
new to this, so Alex is going to tell us about it, and then we are going to go in depth further with it. Okay, Alex.
I mean, just to start with, like, we were going to talk about how to train for power and explosiveness, and then like we do our usual preamble where we'll go through various different things from sporting worlds and just like our day-to-day lives as well. I'll tell you that actually, before we begin, scratch everything. I'll tell you what I do hate at the minute: pigeons. Horrible bug, horrible. Right?
Right.
Yesterday we had our windows cleaned. Window cleaning
Okay.
came out like there's a lot of windows to clean. It's there's a fair bit of glass going on, and you would not believe it looks like an eagle has shit down the side of the wind. Like I'm fuming. I'm absolutely steaming. They were cleaned yesterday, and it's disgusting. What has been left is absolutely rancid. I'm going to put this on my Instagram stories for everyone to see. So if you are I mean, by the time you listen to this, you might have missed it. But if you want me to send you a delayed picture, feel free to just drop me a message and I'll WhatsApp you a photo over. It's absolutely rancid. They're disgust. I need a rifle. I've given Axel permission to eat them. We don't need them. Pigeons, they're awful, horrible. I've done nothing to them so far. But anyway,
Yeah. I think we should actually decide what would we rather kill off first, all the pigeons or all the horseflies?
oh, close, isn't it?
They're both really annoying, really annoying. Anyway,
I'm just gonna leave a
so
big, I'm gonna leave a big bag of rice in my back garden. That'll sort them out. Does that actually work? Does that kill pigeons if they eat rice? I heard that once upon a time as a young kid, and I've never really investigated it much further.
I don't know.
Hmm.
I don't know.
Anyway,
If they ate it through the barrel of a loaded gun, it might.
yeah. I mean, I'm not I'm not much into cruelty to animals, but in terms of the explosiveness of pigeons, yeah, I'll be more than happy to take a shotgun and find out how far they go. Um, So yeah, we were going to be talking about how to train for power, explosiveness, and then I think since we last sat down, there's too much has happened that is like massive. I mean monumental in terms of its significance in the sporting world. Whether you like want to even include England progressing in the Euros, which was still in it by the way. Go on the boys.
Fuck
Um,
knows how. Fuck knows how. We have been very lucky. But hey ho, if we ride the luck wave all the way through, we ride the luck wave all the way through.
anyway, listen, we'll talk about the game towards the end of the episode later, but
Yeah.
yeah, there's been too much that has happened in the past week since we last recorded an episode to be able to not actually get onto this specific subject and do it justice. The first one I've got noted down is Andy Murray, his time at Wimbledon. on the grass courts is over. It's done. He's played his final match. How would you assess his impact on tennis, Chris? Not that we're tennis experts, but we've grown up as kids watching Wimbledon, been big fans. We've played a bit. We understand it, and yeah, it's like considering he was the first British player to win Wimbledon for a hell of a long time. How would you assess his impact as?
Well, yeah, I think he's revolutionized potentially the whole nation in the sense of I vividly remember as a child watching Tim Henman, and I definitely wasn't in the only family in the UK that genuinely believed that we would never ever win anything as a nation. Like we would come third, we'd be favorites, we'd be like everything would look glorious, and then we just collapse and have some kind of downfall. And Andy Murray disproved that for us. So I feel like in that sense, we owe him an air of gratitude because he actually won something, which is,
Yeah.
he paved the way. He Roger Bannistered for the rest of the GB athletes, the rest of UK. So yeah, yeah, a little moment for Andy Murray there from me.
Do you remember where you were or what you were doing when he won Wimbledon for the first time?
No.
Because he'd been close a couple of times, and you always thought, "Oh, is he going to get over the line?" And then obviously when he did, I don't know. It's almost like when we had Tim Henman, it was like all the expectation, all the hope, all the excitement, all the build up, all the fanatical kind of like, come on, is he going to do it this year? And it's the not knowing that kind of draws you in. And then obviously he
Yeah.
never did it, and it was looking that way with Andy Murray for time. And then once he does win it, you kind of like, oh, all right then, moving on, like carry on with life
Yeah.
as normal. But I think on the day that he did win it, I'm sure I was playing American football. I think I had a game for the Tamworth Phoenix over where we were playing at Litchfield Rugby Club at the time. And I think I remember like I wasn't able to watch it, but I just remember finding out via someone else who was on the sidelines that just said, "Oh, he's done it. He's won." And we're like,
See, I don't actually remember that, but I do remember he won an Olympic gold. And I think it was actually in 2012 when we were there and we didn't actually watch the tennis, but I really remember that then. Um I think it was probably one of the only gold medals we won, but
so in terms of like, I mean, it's quite emotional actually. Like looking back at someone's career for that. Like, I don't know. Like, do you get touched by it? Does it like hit you a little bit? It's like what they've achieved and the period of longevity and the amount of time they've been able to perform at that level. I just kind of like I did the same. I watched a video of Jimmy Anderson. It was like a tribute to him this morning. I was like, fucking hell, man! Like that's something. That's special.
Yeah, I always think it when there's been a period of longevity there, when they've done it for a long time, and like more often than not nowadays, we see it through like highlight reels and stuff like that. But where you see them actually as young men or women achieving things and then going on and still achieving things further down the line, like it's very rare that you have someone who is at the very top for such a long, long time. And it's like you alluded to when we were talking about Roger Federer, like between him, Djokovic, and Murray, they'd won basically everything for the best part of what was it, 15 years?
And
Something like
Nadal,
that.
getting Nadal.
Oh yeah, and Nadal, sorry, as well. Like four of them. And then obviously in football we've had Ronaldo and Messi for so long. And when you look back and you think, I always think about Wayne Rooney, like being in the Euros when he was 16. Like you think, what was I doing when I was 16? What was I doing when I was 25? Like it's incredible what these people are doing at young ages. Like unreal. So yeah, to be doing it as a man, but they were doing it as technically kids as well, young adults growing up.
And I suppose that's the thing. It's being able to see
For
them.
women,
Don't forget the women. You can't.
sorry.
We're nothing without them. Um, And also you got to bear in mind, like I don't know, there's just something about seeing someone from day one with that unlimited potential, and then obviously at the end of the career in some of these cases, you've got like just that go kind of number one, best of all time kind of projection from day one, raw as anything. Like, no idea what to expect. And just to see that journey unfold in even just a matter of minutes, and you think, fucking hell, like what they've achieved and all the work they've put in over that 20 odd year career, maybe longer than that. And then even through their childhood, you just think like there's so much that goes into it. It's so kind of, I don't know the right word. Not humbling, but like it's really emotional to kind of watch and understand like what they've actually done in that moment. Like, do you ever think about this? Like, I feel like this is something that we should all probably do and kind of take stock of in our own lives, where kind of appreciate where you came from as a kid, as a child, from day one to where you are now and what you've achieved. Like if you were able to create, and this is again a bit of a psychological exercise, I would actually recommend everybody does this kind of thing where, if you were to watch a highlights tape of your life and just visualize that on a DVD, or like on as a Netflix documentary now, for example, imagine if you could just play and watch that, and just like even a 2 to 3 5 minute clip, doesn't need to be long, doesn't need to be all the details, but if you could just play that little highlights reel of the things you've done, the things you've achieved, the things you've seen, the experiences you've had, like how awesome would that be?
Yeah, pretty cool. Definitely have goosebumps doing something like that.
Do you think you'd cry?
Watching my own,
Yeah.
I definitely cry watching my own. I'd be like, what on earth is he doing there? Shouldn't have done that.
Just sat there at the end of it going, oh, I just wish I'd done it differently.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it's pretty epic. It's pretty special. But again, I think that's huge for him in terms of like people should actually take some time to recognize their own achievements. We definitely don't do enough of that.
Yeah, and I think it goes without saying, kind of like what we said last time, like being at the top, like it's so easy to fall down from the top. And I think the amount of preparation, the amount of execution, and the amount of discipline and commitment and consistency it takes to, first of all, become pro, that alone, huge achievement. I wonder if at some point if people found statistics as how many people are actually out there trying to make it as tennis players, to actually make it as a professional. Then the next step up from there is to become ranked and become one of the top 100, blah, blah, blah. And then the next step up from there would be to become one of the top. And then once you've made that step and you're at the top, it's then trying to stay at the top. Like that's another thing. Once you are one of the best, you can still fall back for definite. It's kind of like what do they call like the original Ronaldo R9 when
Mm.
obviously he was going through what he went through with drugs and alcohol and stuff, and he put on quite a lot of weight, and he was obviously nowhere near as athletic, but he was still ranked at the top because he was still that good because he'd put in the work that other people will not do to get to the top. So you're still better than those other people, even if you're falling back in habits. But then you be those people. Now the next level is at the very, very top to try and stay there. Then to become the number one, even to become three or two or one, it's like you're one in literally however many millions.
Okay, so let's go into that then. So let's go into like how hard is it to get into professional sport, and then we'll think about it from there in terms of how hard it is to stay there once you are there. So I think you got some stats on that, haven't you?
Yeah, so I just drafted up some statistics in American football, baseball, basketball, and MLS soccer. So obviously this is American, but I also drafted up some statistics for tennis as well. But listen to this. So there are approximately 1 million high school American football players. Of that 1 million, 73,000 approximately will become college players. Of those 73,000, around 250 will become NFL draftees, and then less than 1.6% will end up being drafted. Those are the statistics from high school American football to go in to the NFL and become a professional. And then of those, it actually says in terms of challenges beyond talent and careers spanning in time, things like that, it actually says that obviously due to it being extremely competitive, there's high attrition, and then it's usually very short careers. So the average career is 3 years in the NFL, and there is a 100% injury rate over the course of the average career.
And yeah, I mean, that'll even be true across the amateur sport as well. I imagine the injury rate is around 100%. I don't think there's anyone who plays the sport and then comes alive in one piece or
Yeah.
out of it alive in one piece. Like, I know I've had my fair share and I'm just a kicker. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I was talking about that with someone this morning in one of my sessions as well, actually. Like, just in terms of even rugby, some of the hits. I don't know if you're watching any of the rugby over the weekend, South Africa versus Ireland, and then England v New Zealand, and just some of the collisions, some of the contacts. You just think, hey, these lads are doing it on a weekly basis, and it is brutal. Like, it is brutal high level sport to be able to go out and perform week in, week out, condition yourself to the best of your ability to. I mean, a lot of people don't like doing things if they don't feel 100%. The reality of it, elite level sport, is you might not feel like doing things, but you have got to do it. Because
Yeah.
either you do it and you perform and understand that everybody feels the same way. Everyone's feeling sore, everyone's feeling a little bit battered, everyone's feeling a little bit beaten up. Or you go, yeah, not feeling it today, coach. Someone else comes in to take your spot, because that's the bottom line there. I mean, how many college athletes were you talking about there? If you get a few of them that are at the top of the food chain deciding that they're going to start taking time off, not playing games, not getting reps, someone's going to be coming up behind them and they will take their spot 100%, because people, like, I think you have to remember that people are hungry to make it. Some of these people, like, so some of these guys who get to the top are so desperate to get to the top that is inevitable. So if you take your foot off the gas, you just take your talent for granted or whatever, I think you can get away with just, not doing things because you're a little bit sore. You are sadly mistaken. Um, I think I got
Yeah,
some.
I think just to add one thing to that, like what people need to understand as well is if you are looking to become an athlete, like, professionals are professionals because they are exactly that. They have a professional approach, and you nowadays you can't just be a professional and not be devoting everything that you do towards excelling in that sport without that being noticeable. If you want to actually excel and be at the top, you're giving up everything to be at that level, or at the very least to get there. Then when you're at that level, we've seen people like Phil Jones, not naming any names, who just get paid a lot of money and they just do the bare minimum to stay there. But like they did all the hard work at the start to get to that level.
I mean, I
So
really feel for Phil Jones. If you'd have written down on paper, is this the career that you want? I'm not sure he'd have taken that. I think he would have preferred more playing time, less injuries, and I just think he's been very unfortunate. I do feel for him, and that's the way it goes sometimes. It's just the way it's just sport. It's football. It's life. Um, just with regards to Andy Murray, so like having a little look back at his career, 41 weeks as number one in the world. And he's the only player, both male or female, so both male or female, of either male or female to win 2 Olympic gold medals in the singles, which he did in 2012 and 2016. Some more stats here in terms of career prizes: 46 titles, 46 career titles, won 769 matches to 262, and career prize money. He's done all right for himself, so you can't feel sorry for Andy Murray. 64,677,584 dollars approximately, according to ATP tennis. And then, um, yeah, I mean, there's some pretty remarkable numbers. I think if you'd have given him that career on,
Yeah,
he would have taken it in any.
outrageous. And I think on that financial one.
What did you say?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, what did you say?
Sorry, my screen is completely frozen here. One of the things that I was going to allude to there was the statistics that I brought up about tennis. And whilst the very, very top players like Andy Murray's and Djokovic's and Nadal's and Federer's have careers lasting over 10 years, that is only for the people at the top. So they're the people that we see and that we know of because they are the best. Other careers do not last that long because, like lots of people see in the fitness industry, people just aren't making enough money to be able to sustain the hobby and the lifestyle and be able to play. You got to think when you're at a lower level and you're not elite yet and you don't have all the sponsorships, you are paying for to get yourself out there to go to tournaments. And if you don't win, you've lost money to go and perform in a tournament. It's costing you money. You're not earning anything.
Yeah,
So, you've got to put the work in first before you start getting a return on your time and on the investments that you've made by, you know, putting the work in.
that's it. It's the ultimate performance pay scale. You don't perform, you don't get paid. That's it. Quite simple. Um, we'll move on to the Formula One now. So Silverstone Grand Prix was at the weekend. Did you watch it?
I did not.
Because you were fucking nodding then, and you were like, no. Um, so Lewis Hamilton
No.
managed to get the W, and for first time he's won in like 3 years. But also, he's the he's the only driver to have won more races at one particular circuit than anyone else who has ever raced. So I think he was tied before with Michael Schumacher. They both won 8 races each at a particular circuit. Hamilton's now won 9 races at Silverstone. I think it's 9, or is it 7 and 7, and then he's gone to 8. Either way, massive fucking achievement and probably unexpected given how crappy his car has been over the last couple of years. But where do you rank Lewis Hamilton in terms of British sports people?
I would say again, someone that I personally would class as revolutionary for us as Brits. I think when he came on the scene originally, I remember watching him, I believe it was in a Formula 3 race, and something had happened to his car. I think he'd crashed. I think he was winning. He'd crashed his car, and then fallen back to like 20th place. And then it was just this brilliant highlight of him going from 20th and coming back and finishing third or something like that. And I think he became a bit of an icon, didn't he? I think he certainly, well, I mean, he was winning everything. He was winning everything. And he was, I think most of the world saw him as quite good looking. He was well spoken. He was fashionable. So a lot of people just fell in love with him, kind of a bit like watching like a
Have you seen
David Beckham resurrected in Formula One, like
have you,
that.
have you seen his
Um,
you seen his fashion now though? Jesus.
no, I don't keep up with him nowadays, no. But I know it did kind of explode into becoming some kind of icon, and he was seen as being like quite cool and known for what he was wearing and stuff like that. So yeah, and he was a good guy. He was a pretty good guy as well, from what I believe. But yeah, he was winning everything, and it was one of those. It was. Do you know what I liken it to? When we used to watch United as kids, Alex, when we were growing up, we'd be losing 1-0 in the first 5 minutes. Like, yeah, it doesn't matter. That doesn't matter though, because we will end up winning. Like it was a sure thing. And I think it felt very much the same with people like Andy Murray and people like Lewis Hamilton as well. It was like it's actually surprising if they don't win,
Mm.
and it's not really as surprising if they do. Like that's how good they were. That's how good they are. Um, and that's how well maintained they were at the very top. I think Hamilton was always very much the same, and he was exciting as well. It's not like watching England football team play nowadays. He was actually exciting to watch as well, which,
Yeah.
I wasn't a fan of Formula One like I was as a kid. And then after Michael Schumacher, I couldn't care less. And then Lewis Hamilton came along. And because of Lewis Hamilton, I enjoyed it again. I started watching it again.
So I have very much a similar kind of view to you on this. Like I used to think Lewis Hamilton was absolutely mint. Thought he was absolutely class. Like as a kid coming through, it was great to see him winning races, kind of tearing up the form, but like, causing issues and disrupting the best at the top. I think Fernando Alonso, possibly Kimi Raikkonen, and various other people within Formula One who were kind of uprooted as a result of his kind of Mika Richards style bursting onto the scene kind of situation. And again, I think he went on Top Gear, and I thought he came across really, really well, just as like a fun, normal guy, just loved driving cars, and seemed like a pretty cool kid. And then this is where today's kind of episode topic becomes kind of like, why do people hate greatness? It got to a point with Lewis Hamilton where my opinion on him changed, and I was like, he's a bit of a dick now, though.
He became political, didn't he?
Yeah, and I don't know whether that like, and this is purely a me thing. Like, I'm not expecting anyone to listen to this to, fully agree with my opinion. But I was thinking, mate, you used to be just like a relatively normal guy, like all the talent in the world, like performing, like love supporting him, and then to me, it almost became a point where he got say above his station, but he started doing things where I'm like, why are you talking about that? Why are you doing that? And then he did things that I was like,
Yeah.
it's just like you dressing like a nun. Like, what you doing, bro? Like, just be a normal guy. Like, just be like, if that is you being you, then I'm like, yeah, fair enough. But it's not to my taste. But yeah, and then he starts giving his, sticking his oar in on various political opinions and expecting. And I think this is the thing, like from the outside looking in, it's almost like there's the expectation that everybody has to agree with me because I am correct. And this is what I believe, and I am right. This is the virtuous thing to say and do and think. And anyone who doesn't is a bigger and is just, a little bit lost. So that's where I kind of fell out with him a little bit in terms of fandom.
No, I agree. I think like there was a stage where, people thought he was really, really cool. And then, this probably says more about other people than him, but he had some choice hairstyles. He wore some weird things, as you alluded to, and then started speaking about things that, Ricky Gervais in the Golden Globes would have said, like, you're a racing driver and you're quite cool. Shut the fuck up. We want to watch you race. We don't care about what your opinions are. That's for something else,
Yeah.
which I wouldn't necessarily agree with for everyone, but it was the truth. He was a Formula One driver, like you said. He'd been given a huge platform because he'd done so well. And then it just, I don't know, he seemed like he just went from being, I think it was the fact that it was a huge transition from seeming and being very, very normal and likable to all of a sudden being like totally extreme with what he was doing, what he was wearing, like what he was buying, who he was hanging about with, what he was saying, like what his beliefs were. Like it just went from here, like people don't like change, do they? He went from 0 to 4,000.
Yeah.
Like it was just totally abrupt. And I think obviously naturally you've got a set opinion of him. I don't mean you personally, but yeah, you did. I did too. Other people had an opinion of that person. And then all of a sudden comes out with all these different things. It's like, okay, it's not the person I thought it was. It's like they say, don't meet your heroes. Don't meet
Yeah.
because the more you learn about them, the more you realize they're human, just like the rest of us, and they have all the same flaws as the rest of us.
Yeah. I think this is why I like doing this podcast as well, because this actually gives people a chance to actually get to know what we're actually really like. They might see things that we say and do on social media and think, oh, he's a bit of a
Why
knobhead.
we've got no friends.
Or they might go, oh, he seems all right. And then they listen to this and you think, guy's absolutely fucking off the wall, like not a good person kind of thing. So like if you are, for people listening to this, it gives you a chance to actually get to know us. Like this is there's no filter on this. There's no pretend. There's no like, oh, this is the best of our life, like highlight reels for Instagram. It's none of that nonsense. It's just like this is just us. And I think the thing with Lewis Hamilton, even though I don't necessarily like him in the way that I used to as a driver and as a fan, I think I definitely at least still have that respect for him as a competitor, as an athlete, as a driver, and especially for what he's achieved. So I'll go through some of these now. Like 18-year career so far in F1, he's won 7 championships, nearly 50%. That's not a bad return, that. 104 wins out of 344 races, 199 podiums, 67 fastest laps, 31 retirements, over 4,700 points. What have I got? I've got his career earnings here somewhere. Yeah, 9 home race wins. So I was correct earlier. He was tied 8-8 with Schumacher, and then he's gone and won his 9th at Silverstone this year. Where's his career earnings? Come on. Not got his career earnings, but estimated net worth. He's done all right for himself. Estimated net worth of about $300 million. That's according to Celebrity Net Worth. And then his contract up to 2023, so this is a little bit out of date, was $55 million salary for the year. And obviously, he's just signed a new deal with Ferrari to go there. So, be interesting to see if he can maintain his success and whether he'll even want to go for Ferrari anymore, considering their performances have massively slumped and Mercedes have absolutely picked up. But watching him kind of win the race of the weekend, and then even just, when they drive the final lap around the track and before they come into the pits once the race is finished, and just the radio messages between him and the team, and you can hear how emotional he is. Like that for me, that hit home as well. I was like if you were to think and plan your dream career from day one to that, like that's perfect. That is absolutely perfect for the amount of time you've put in and for all the records you've set and all the things you've achieved, and to get to that point where you can just, I can't imagine there's a more enjoyable moment.
Yeah, I think that's one of those where it like it hits you emotively and potentially even spiritually, because it's realizing it's literally like you said about us doing the podcast. It's seeing who he really is and how he really feels about it. And I'll tell you what I'm going to do as well. I'm going to try and find some statistics on how long he's actually spent sat in a car doing these laps, how many laps he's done, how many hours he's done. Because to have those numbers, like, and the financial rewards and stuff like that. And let's not forget as well, he's also sitting on some pretty hefty endorsement deals. I know he was with Monster, he did one with Tommy Hilfiger, didn't he? Like, all that stuff can come if you're willing to put in the work. Like, and the work for him will be hours and hours and hours and hours of sitting down in his car or on his little simulator and driving around. And can you imagine, Alex? When people say nowadays, like, someone comes into a gym and Joe PT will say, "Listen, you've got tight hip flexors. You've got lower back pain because you've got tight hip flexors." Never heard Hamilton complain about lower back pain. He
Uh,
sat down all the
I think
time.
maybe he did last year when his car was just bouncing up and down all the time on the track. I think again, just going back, like you mentioned about all his endorsement deals and his sponsorships and things like I don't think he ever really kicked off. When people do these outside projects and they launch their own fashion brand or they launch their own line of trainers and all that kind of stuff. I don't think he ever really did that until he'd actually fully established himself as a very successful driver in terms of like up there with the greatest of all time kind of talk. And I think realistically at that point, it doesn't become a distraction for you if you're able to do it that way around, rather than going, right, I'm going to just focus on being my own brand. And then your performances start to come second and everything starts to slip. I think in terms of the way he's managed his career, I think he's done an absolutely fantastic job. Definitely something to look up to and worth appreciating. Um, Are you still looking for some of those stats on how long he's potentially sat in a car and been driving an F1 car for?
Yeah, so some have come out now. So debut 2007 with McLaren. He's done 7 World Championships, 103 Grand Prix wins, 103 pole positions, 188 podium finishes, 61 fastest laps. These are obviously outdated. But so it's calculated here. Average race is approximately 1.5 hours. He's done around 322 races. So that's about 483 hours racing in the car. Around 60 laps per race. It's around 20,000 laps.
And then you've
So
got
around
qualifying.
480 hours racing and 19,320 laps. And that's only in the Formula One career, by the way. So bear in mind, he obviously started where everyone starts, which is, just go-karting and doing those races. Then he's gone Formula 3 and then gone up from there. So it's a fucking long time.
A lot of time in a car. That I won't,
Yeah.
I won't mind him driving me in a taxi. That'd be good fun. Um, going on to Novak Djokovic. So he had a bit of an issue the other night. He's probably like the one remaining GOAT in tennis at the minute in terms of dominance. Like obviously that era of Federer, Nadal, Murray, Djokovic is coming to an end. One by one, they've been dropping off. It's steadily getting there, and he's still there, still performing at the top. I think currently ranked world number one, world number two, maybe, but he's definitely up there. And he had an issue the other night where he was playing, and some of the supporters for the other player, they were actually booing Djokovic, and I don't feel like he's actually very much loved or appreciated anywhere he goes. Certainly not in Australia, who, let's not forget they actually deported the guy because he's not been
Yeah.
vaccinated. And even at Wimbledon, I feel like he in particular always has a lot of support going against him, no matter who he's playing.
Yeah.
Federer was always, given loads of support. Obviously, it's the way he played the game. I think people, fantasized over that more than anything. Nadal always gets really good support. Obviously, Andy Murray at Wimbledon gets unbelievable support because it's his home tournament. Djokovic, I just feel like travels the world, wins everything, and is just completely unloved. Or it seems that way. So he had people booing him, but at the end, he did an on-court interview, and he mentioned about the people booing him and how he'd played in much more hostile environments than this. And he was like, to all those people who were booing me, good night. And then he just like left it there. And then the BBC, I don't know what your opinion on the BBC is, but they're a bunch of dicks. Like they did an interview with him either later that day or the next day. And they literally just started the interview. They asked him 3, maybe 4 questions on the same topic about him being booed, as if they're trying to draw him into something controversial or try and get him to apologize, or I don't understand it. And even Claire Baldwin, I think Claire Baldwin and John McEnroe gave a perfect response to this. She commented about him being booed, and was he right to say what he said in response? And John McEnroe was like, yeah, hell yeah, of course he was. Like, it's about time he started getting some respect. And I actually like that he had a bit of a bite back. And I just feel like he's someone who is probably gone under the radar in terms of what he's actually achieved. I think people don't really seem to fully get it. And I remember probably the first time I actually took note of Djokovic was at Wimbledon. He was playing against Andy Roddick, who at the time I was a massive fan of Andy Roddick, just because he could serve the ball at like 150 miles an hour, like unbelievable power. And I remember it got to the point like Roddick was winning, but Djokovic just wouldn't go away. He was like that really annoying fly that just will not fuck off. And I remember it got to the point where Djokovic was just churning out point after point after point, returning his serves, winning points, taking games off Roddick. And like it got to a point in the match where Andy Roddick actually turned around to his box and was like, what do I do? He was like completely out of it. He'd just been completely battered by just the relentless nature of the way that he was playing. Like for me, that's something that I absolutely love, absolutely adore it, and I'm a massive fan. And then obviously the fact that he didn't get vaccinated and stood up for his principles, big believer of that as well. Good lad. Despite all the pressure, all the no, we're going to kick you out of the tournament. You're not going to be able to play, career on the line. He's willing to go, no, screw that. I don't believe it's the right thing to do. I'm not going to play that game for you. I feel like he doesn't get enough credit for that because obviously it was, everyone had to get vaccinated for grandma, didn't they? Back in that period of time.
No, I agree with you completely. Obviously, respect to him for holding to his values and things like that. I think what they did to him was bullshit and unfair. And, that is what it is. No, I'm not a fan of the BBC. But in terms of Jokic, I also agree. Like, I think he was on the radar, but kind of flew under because people were either Federer fans or Nadal fans.
Yep.
And as a result, Djokovic was always that guy that was, spoiling it, I guess. He was always
Yeah.
the guy
Yeah.
spoiling it. And I know that I saw it that way. I was a huge fan of Federer and Nadal, and I always wanted, if it was Federer versus Djokovic, I was supporting Federer. I wanted Federer to win. If it was Nadal versus Djokovic, I wanted Nadal to win. I liked them both equally, and I thought they were both the best. So it was very much that way. And I think as a result, you don't really focus on Djokovic's career and what he's achieving and who he is and how he's doing. You just kind of see him as, for fuck's sakes, like I wanted Nadal to win, or for fuck's sakes, I wanted Federer to win. So, but yeah, he's definitely at the top and definitely one of the greats in terms of both personality, values as a man, and athletic performance as well.
And also the guy's in incredible, like fucking ridiculous shape, considering how long he's been playing for. And yeah, he must have had injuries, but he still looks in prime condition. Just go through some of his career stats. This is off at the ATP Tour website. Up to the point where I took this information, career wins 1,105. Career losses 219. 98 tour titles. Prize money. Do you want to guess a ballpark figure for prize money? So if I
No,
remind you,
please.
Andy Murray was $64.6 million. What do you think Djokovic has done?
85 million.
Okay. 182 million.
Jesus.
$182 million of prize money. And do you remember the episode we recorded a couple of weeks back where I said about Roger Federer, like total points won through his career?
Yep.
That percentage was it like 53%?
Yeah, 56, 53.
It was about 53%, I think, maybe. So Novak Djokovic, total points won. Bear in mind, 98 titles and $182 million of prize money with over 1,100 career wins. He won 54% of his points. That 4% swing, or maybe that 1% ahead of Roger Federer, it's just ridiculous. I think 24 Grand Slam titles, 98 singles titles, which I mentioned, including 24 majors and 40 Masters titles. Just like you say, he was the guy that came along and just spoiled the party. I mean, imagine how many titles Roger Federer and Nadal would have won without Djokovic being there.
Yeah.
It is absolutely bonkers. Um, and then you've got Jimmy Anderson playing his final test match starting today. You're a big Jimmy fan.
I actually am. So let me rephrase that. I always was. Jimmy Anderson was always my favorite, but I just don't keep up with the cricket anymore. But I always was a huge fan of Jimmy Anderson. I just thought he was the best bowler, just swinging it in, unreal. I remember when we went to watch them at Old Trafford, and I remember it being quite boring. It was just too long to be sat there doing very little
I think
fruit salad.
it didn't really help because we were crap as well.
Yeah,
It
that's
was
true
I was
as well.
actually against the West Indies as well, which is who we're playing now.
Yeah.
I remember that because
Oh, there you go.
we were there in the morning. We had to finish them off. We had to bowl them out. I think we took 3 wickets, and then we went out to bat, and by the time we finished the day's play, we were 6 wickets down or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, I am. I'm a Jimmy fan. What about you? You a Jimmy fan?
absolutely. Again, just for what he's achieved, and I think he's someone who's done everything the right way. I think he's not gone. I think I described this earlier with Lewis Hamilton. He's not gone above his station. He's just been Jimmy Anderson. He's just played cricket, taken wickets, gone about his business. He's not become like big celebrity, rah rah, putting himself about. He's just kept quietly gone about his business, done what he needed to do, and has just been the ultimate professional. Absolutely the ultimate professional. Although he's not scored many test runs. 187 matches, 1,353 runs, batting average of 8.96. And then, he's not in the side for that though, is he? 700 test wickets, which is just astonishing, especially for a fast bowler, because in terms of the mileage that they get through, like running into the stumps again and again and again, bowling at 80 plus miles an hour, the amount of work that has to go through your front leg, front knee, hip, back, elbow. I mean, you've seen Joffrey Archer basically, he's like a puncture on a Formula One tire. It's like Lando Norris's tire. Like as soon as you work at those high speeds in that high threshold, you just disintegrate and fall apart. It is incredibly tough to stay conditioned for that period of time to be able to relentlessly do that job with that level of skill. First class. Love it.
And when you're only doing it like single arm, like one directional as well, like I was going to say, it absolutely stinks of a knee or shoulder injury.
Yeah. So I think in terms of answering the question, like why do people hate greatness? I don't think people necessarily hate greatness. I think my take on it is people hate people who get above their station and go beyond their remit of what they personally feel that particular person. Like my instance with Lewis Hamilton, if I personally feel like he shouldn't be talking about various different issues, for me, when he does start talking about that pisses me off. So that turns me away from him a little bit. Like little things like that, nothing massive. And then in terms of Novak Djokovic, I simply think people don't like Novak Djokovic because he's come along and spoiled a party. If you're already a fan of someone, like if you're a Ronaldo fan, then Messi comes along and starts winning everything, and you start to hate on Messi. Like, because it's pretty vicious, isn't it? Like when you start going on Instagram and Twitter and talking about Ronaldo and Messi and some of the loonies that come creeping out the woodwork, they're fucking weirdos.
Yeah, it's always one or the other, and it's always they like one or absolutely adore one and absolutely hate the other one.
Yeah. I'm like, I like you. Okay, we've got a different opinion. We're talking about two of the greatest of all time. You don't need to come and murder me or cut my head off or steal my legs because I prefer Ronaldo over Messi. Like you don't need to come and, be such a weirdo. Just get over it. So
I
yeah,
do think
anyone
stuff
who's
like
come
that.
spoil the pie.
So a lot of people say about like hating Ronaldo. I've heard a lot of people say that like while this tournament's been going. And the only reason they ever say is because he's a crybaby. To which, like on one hand, I get it. But on the other hand, these people, and by these people, I mean everyone, need to have the ability to look at someone and understand not the behavior itself, but what it represents
Mhm.
and its principles. Because that's way more important. He's not a crybaby. Like Cristiano Ronaldo has been proven to be one of the most disciplined athletes of all time. And we've been very, very lucky to be around while he's around. And all the documentaries about him and everything shows that he's a philanthropist and he's actually genuinely very caring, but he's just so into winning. Like, that's what it is. If someone can dislike a person for that, hate a person for that, like, it's like you genuinely think he's a crybaby. I don't think a crybaby could be the everyone at a world class level says, oh yeah, but he's always the first training. He's always the last to leave. He dedicates his entire life specifically to it. Like he's in the gym when he's at home. He invites his football mates round and then eats healthy food. Like doesn't fucking sound like a crybaby. Sounds like someone very, very devoted to what they're fucking trying to do. And when they don't get it, it upsets them. Yeah, because it fucking does.
Yeah. Imagine if it didn't bother you. Do you think you'd still get to that level? I'm going to say no.
It
I'd
angers
say,
me when John from Surrey is like, oh, he's such a pussy, he's such a crybaby, blah, 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 blah. It's like, you have done absolutely nothing with your life. Like, unfortunately, that opinion is absolutely worthless at this stage until you've done something.
That's it. So, do you think you're a good loser? Are you a crybaby?
I definitely was. Oh my days, have we got stories to tell about that? Wow.
Not just
Everyone, like, people at work say to me about having wrinkles on my forehead at the age that I am. Like, for anyone who's watching, there's quite a lot of wrinkles on my forehead. If you're not watching, there's wrinkles on my forehead.
yeah,
It's
but
because
that's only
brownie
because
oil.
that's only because you move in your head and you lift raising your eyebrows. Like, the only reason you won't get wrinkles there is if you've had plastic surgery. It's not a
Either
not
way,
a bad
I
thing.
was very sulky as a child. If I didn't win, I was sulking. Nowadays, I, I take it personally. I take it very personally, and like it gets internalized, and I don't fucking forget. If you beat me, just know something's going to happen over the next 3 to 6 months.
We also have videos as well, by the way. There are family videos of Chris losing and sulking, sitting on a step, head in his hands, refusing to talk to anybody. It's happened.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I was never good at it. Like, it really pissed me off. It made me like want to fight, get really angry. So
yeah.
yeah. Finally, big one tonight. Big one, massive, huge. Are you believing yet? We're talking about Spain v England, by the way, everybody.
Am I believing? It's tough to answer that because I do kind of feel like we're just going to continue to flop our way into the final. Like I think part of me thinks we're going to flop our way into the final, and then part of me thinks we're going to get absolutely bummed.
You think Spain are going to take care of us, or Holland are going to take care of us tonight?
Yeah, I just think there's only so long you can carry on doing what you're doing. I'll tell you what this is the theory I've come up with, right? This so-called system that Southgate's using is to discombobulate the opposition by playing poor, unentertaining football, whereby you keep giving the ball away, you play random stray passes, you don't concentrate on what you're doing, you don't properly attack, you don't really make it clear what you're actually trying to do until you get to the final. And then when you're in the final, okay, we'll play properly again. No one has any idea what that's going to be. No one has any idea what we look like when we play properly. Our shape is different. Our formation feels completely different. We go on the attack. We're all fresh because we've done fuck all for the last few weeks, and we win. That's my theory. Because how do you study an opposition that have fluked their way into the final? Like you have to prep for what you think they're capable of, what you think they can do. But no one has a fucking clue at this stage.
Yeah, maybe it's a masterstroke. Maybe we've like been favourites for the tournament all the way through, or like from the start of the tournament we were the favourites. Obviously, France went out last night as joint favourites, and maybe it's just luring the opposition into a bit of a bit of an easy kind of, or a sense of comfort, or a sense of like they're gonna do us. I know we're a bit easy, we're a bit soft touch, and yeah, maybe it's a masterstroke. Maybe he's played it right. I mean, I'll admit, I was like, start of the tournament, especially after the first game, I was like, we've got no chance. Absolutely no chance. Whereas now, I'm thinking there's maybe 1% chance. We win tonight. You don't know. It's then 50-50. It becomes the FA Cup final of Man United v Man City. We like Man United, we were crap all season. We had no left back. We didn't have Luke Shaw. We were playing our right back at left back. We had people all over the place, people underperforming, people not performing, disjointed. And then somehow from somewhere, the impossible became possible. And, I hesitate. I'm very reluctant to say it's coming home. but there is always a chance.
It's called hope and desperation. That's what that is.
And
It's
that's what kills you.
bias based on hope and desperation.
Anyway, by the time we record the next podcast, we will know for certain. We will know what's happened because we've got, like, it's currently the Wednesday. England are playing tonight. Then the final is on the Sunday, I think.
Yeah.
So on Sunday. So I missed tonight because I'm at training, by the way, from 8 till 10. So I'll be missing the entire game. Then what am I doing? On Sunday, Manchester Titans are playing East Kilbride Pirates up in Scotland, and it is a 12 midday kickoff. So we've got to be up there early, and then I should be able to get back in time for the game, all being well. So
Right.
it's going to be squeaky bum time. But by the next time we come to record this podcast, we will know either England, massive flops, or glorious and victorious in victory. And they'll be on the steps of Downing Street celebrating with the Prime Minister and probably meeting the King, celebrating in London, doing all that kind of stuff and partying. Jack Grealish will still be down in tequila shots in Ibiza. And we will see what happens. We'll see what happens. Gareth Southgate will get a knighthood either way. And hopefully we're all happy. If you were to put a bet now, what are you saying, Chris? Do England win it?
We lose 2-1 tonight.
Tonight against Holland.
Yeah.
I think we lose tonight as well. I think Holland have got goals in them. I would actually agree with you on that. We're going to agree. We're going to end on that note of firm agreement. Anyway, thank you once again, guys, for tuning in. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for listening to us. Hopefully you've enjoyed the podcast. Hopefully you found it interesting, and have a little think. If you've got someone at the top of the sport that you think, oh, guys, fucking like the amount of guys that hate on Tom Brady for being Tom Brady, just have a look at what those people do well, what qualities it takes to get to the top, and if you have got any prejudices against them, if you think, maybe he's a bit of a crybaby or someone is, doing something in particular you don't like, write down all the things you don't like about them. And then write down all the things that you think make them successful and just weigh it up and just bear that in mind when it comes to, I would say, understanding greatness and hopefully on the pathway to actually understanding winning and what it takes to win, because you don't get to that level. You don't get to that point where these people have got to, Andy Murray, Lewis Hamilton, Novak Djokovic, Jimmy Anderson, the rest of the sporting greats, the Ronaldos, the Messis. You don't get to that point without insanely high levels of commitment, talent, skill, ability, hard work. It is unbelievable what those people have achieved. So if you want to replicate that in some way in your own life, you have to appreciate it when it's put on a plate in front of you. So until next time, let's hope that England get the business done tonight and get it done again on Sunday. We're both predicting that we'll go out tonight, 2-1 win for the Netherlands, and then we'll all be miserable Sunday. So we will be back with another episode again next week. Take care, train hard, train smart, and if you've got any questions, get in touch with us. See you again soon.